Hey guys, and good morning, Wednesday morning, January 10th. Michael Clark with BAM Weather here in Clarity with your latest long-range forecast analysis. A busy pattern underway here, and a very cold pattern, and in fact, some incredibly cold air coming here over the next 10 days. All before a little bit of a pullback, a little bit of a milder risk here across the Great Lakes to the Northeast for a time, maybe for a week or so, and then we'll kind of talk about how we think we're going to go back into a pattern that probably is a prolonged, at least cooler and active pattern as we get into February. So let's talk about the latest that we see right now on radar. This is a look here at radar this morning. Our big storm coming through set a low pressure record out of Indianapolis yesterday, 982 millibar low, the lowest pressure reading on in history here in Indy since 1950. And then again, we will potentially look at doing that again tomorrow. Winter storm watch is hoisted here across western Iowa and Nebraska. There will most likely be a host of winter storm watches and potentially warnings here, and possibly even some blizzard warnings here across northern Illinois, northern Indiana, portions of Michigan, as a nasty storm is going to be coming through here later this week. So you'll have to forgive my drawing here. I've got a new tool, so I'm just trying to learn this as I continue to learn this new platform. So sorry about that. All right, real quick here, guys, let's take a look. I'll show you kind of the forecast here just over the next 24 hours, the rainfall outlook and the snowfall outlook. And this is when the system will start ramping up here over the next 24 hours. The first of kind of the bigger system, if you will, a little clipper comes through, offers up some snow, east Iowa, southern Wisconsin, and through the Great Lakes. And then the bigger system here, 7-day forecast actually, here as you look into northern Illinois, northern Indiana, Michigan. Some big snows coming. We'll talk more about that here in just a second. This is kind of the thought process for a significant winter storm Friday into Saturday. Again, you got a little clipper coming through out ahead of this, and then a big storm which could potentially break more pressure records. We might be looking at a bomb cyclone where we drop as much as 24 millibars in 24 hours, a very strong low pressure system coming through. Once again, the Ohio Valley, heavy rain, high winds, and potentially, again, a blizzard, Chicago up through portions of Michigan. We'll look at it here on the Europeans' weather model. Okay, again, you can see the first storm pulling out. All right, there it goes. It's out of here by tomorrow morning for the most part. There's that weak clipper that brings snow right across the Great Lakes. And then the storm gets its act together. And you watch here, even by Friday afternoon, pressure down to 977 via the latest European model would again break another low pressure record here, at least out of Indy. I'm sure it's breaking several records across the Ohio Valley. 975 low by Friday night. Very, very windy, nasty winter storm there for Chicago. That's a absolutely crazy look from the European. And again, up through central Michigan on the backside, the winds wrap in. You're probably gusting 40, maybe even locally 50 miles per hour, I would imagine, as we kind of see that pressure gradient really wrap up there, especially eastern Indiana, Ohio, gusts there over 50 on the European model. So just a crazy look there, a very strong storm. The next one would come through after that storm. Another one comes through on its heels, a little, like a southern slider, if you will, bring up some snow across the lower Ohio River Valley, Tennessee Valley, up into the mid-Atlantic. Possibly what starts to happen is this energy would link up with the surface low down in the Gulf and phase into what the evening European looks like a nasty nor'easter, a big storm on the evening European, 950 low in New England 7 days from now. So something to watch. The pattern is supportive of it. There's really no question about it. Again, just a look here real quick at snowfall, again from the evening European. Chicago, possibly a foot of snow, again, blizzard-like conditions. There's that next system. Could go into the big northeast snow system. Again, pattern is supportive for a storm like that. And then in the extended, yet another storm system shows up. And it's the next 10 days, it's just very wintry. These storms are going to bring a lot of cold air, right? There's no question about it. You look here at just the feels-like temperature. The first shot of Arctic air is going to arrive this weekend. And really here by Saturday and mostly Sunday morning, temperatures across about 75% of the country will feel colder than 0 degrees. -7 Indy, -23 Chicago, -26 Minneapolis. That's Sunday morning. These are feels like temperatures. There's Monday, and look at Tuesday, -23 Indy, -30 Chicago, -30 in Des Moines. Again, these are just wind chill temperatures. So this significant blast of Arctic air. And the data tries to kind of reload behind another storm later next week. All right. So, again, an active pattern for the time being. What we need to talk about is the long-term forecast. All right. This is the latest look at the MJO. High confidence, really no question about phase 4. Again, if you've been watching us for some time now, we've talked about this risk really since before Christmas, and it being something that would offer up a milder period. We got that part right. What we didn't get right is the timing of it. The timing is later than what I had originally thought. But, you're not always going to get them all right in that regard, but we got this cold and stormy period. We'll get mild, and then I think it can go back to cold and stormy. As cold as this period, I don't know about that. I mean, this is the core of the coldest air on the planet. But I want to show you our energy report that we send to our clients, because what we're looking at here is in week 2. All right, we do think the data can be a bit too cool right now, slightly too cool, and the reason for that is what I just showed you, is that MJO going into phase 4. And I think the model's holding on to the PV influence a little bit too long here. You can start to see both models indicate going below 10 and 30-year normals by day 14, by day 15. All right? And you look at the trend in the overnight runs in the modeling, and they both got quite a bit warmer. Particularly the GEFS. But also, you look here, the European, slightly more mild. But in the 11 to 15, the GEFS got quite a bit more mild here. So let me show you what I mean by this. I think what essentially we're looking at is we've got the Arctic air. It's in place right now. This is temperatures from normal on the 6C GEFS. Obviously, it's incredibly cold. You don't see looks like this very often. This is the vortex. And then it does reload next week behind a storm. But we want to note how quickly the air tries to depart, and temperatures for a time will get mild again, back to above normal as we kind of circle through those MJO phases. All right. The other thing that happens in this time frame is the PV does go back up into the other side of the hemisphere. But there's a couple of things we have to watch. All right. Again, this isn't one of those slam dunk forecasts that we're just totally confident on. And the reason for that is because a couple of things. There's a trend going on with I'm going to pull this up, the North Pacific Ridge right here. Watch this. Watch the GEFS as we get closer here into day 10, day 9. Look how strong that North Pacific Ridge gets. That's going to be another heat flux into the upper levels of the atmosphere, continuing to keep that vortex weaker. All right. Again, there's that latest run. In fact, this latest run here, out through next week, would really be a nice forecast here for another big snowstorm. Very conducive pattern for more wintry weather to go on. But the question is what is the impacts, in the extended? How does this impact the forecast, beyond week 2? What is that doing to the overall outlook? Well, this is the research we did on the Vortex split events, okay? And really it's lining up really nicely. There's a brief pullback in that 11 to 20-day period from the split. The split's right now. You can see across the top, right? It's matching it perfectly. It matches the 6 to 10 perfectly. In fact, this particular event, this split is colder than our analog splits because the lobe has come further east than some of those analogs. So it's a nice shot of Arctic air. What happens is as that split occurs and the vortex pulls back, you do have a period where you get mild, but the overall outcome seems to be leaning towards perhaps more of a solidified or sustained North Pacific blocking event that can set up, and perhaps bring the forecast back colder as early as week 3. I want to show you the European weeklies. check out right here, really in that 21 to 30 day time frame. Look at the orientation of the temperature forecast. This is kind of fascinating to me. You can kind of see the outlook here in terms of the temperature forecast, and then go back to the analog and look at how similar those are. Very, very similar. Kind of adds some confidence, right, to what we're talking about, to that pattern returning, and really probably becoming pretty stormy as we get into January into February, late January into February. This kind of continues to look cooler, and I think probably offer up, continued chances of cold and snow, if you will. Where, I don't know. We're not going to sit here and figure out, who's going to get snow, who's not. Regardless, I think it'll be a pattern conducive for folks to have opportunities at wintry weather, right, and colder temperatures. So, what have I said today? What I've said is active right now, okay? Big storm this weekend. Another storm early next week that could turn into a big northeast event a week from today as that phases up the East Coast, reinforces the cold air. Very, very cold next week. Very cold. Temperatures that feel like 20 degrees below zero, and then a reinforcing shot by day 10 with probably another storm. The cold will quickly pull out for a few days, maybe a week, and possibly reload the very last part, few days of January and then into February. And that's where this brings me into our 3 to 4 week outlook. All right. I think majority of, if anything changes here, this may pull a little bit further west and north with time, and we bring in the cooler departures a little bit more widespread here as we get in closer later January into February period. In terms of the pattern where we're looking at, where is it going to be favorable for bigger winter storms? Well, I talked about this yesterday, but probably somewhere up and through here. Southern Ohio Valley, deep south up into the East Coast, along the coastal U.S. here. I think this is a better pattern, getting into late January into February for a couple of, maybe even a couple of coastal snow events versus the inland snows. We'll have to see as we get closer to that time frame. So don't panic when it gets mild. The day 15, day 14, 500 millibar look is, it doesn't look fun, but I don't think it lasts long. This is just the consequences of going through MJO 4 and 5. But keep a close eye on the North Pacific blocking, the EPO. If that feature becomes more permanent, again, I think it can set up for a fun, 3 to 6 week period here, late month into February. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. We'll talk to you soon.